Verge releases a bombshell article about Xbox. All right, so I think we knew this was coming. We were going to get days after the news comes out more information as to what is happening with the shakeup that did happen on Xbox and Microsoft on Friday, with Asha Sharma being the new CEO of Xbox. Phil Spencer is retiring, Sarah Bond is out, and it left a lot of people with many questions as to exactly what was happening here. And I think the biggest thing of all, the biggest question was, why Sarah Bond? Why was she not promoted to the new CEO? Why did she leave? And basically, what did she do at Xbox to have her in this position right now? As I said before, the whole retirement for Phil Spencer, and it's confirmed in this article, not shocking, not surprising. It was planned. I feel like a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding the whole Phil Spencer side of thing it's interesting to see them, but I believe his retirement was planned. Whether it was going to be happening now or going to be happening by the end of this year, his retirement was happening. And now we have some more information on this. So Tom Warren puts out a big article here at The Verge with lots of stuff. And the most interesting thing of all is the discussion surrounding the Xbox strategy and how people felt about this internally at Xbox. So let's go through it. It says Xbox fans have been anticipating the retirement of Microsoft gaming CEO Phil Spencer for years, which is completely true. But what most hadn't expected was the departure of Xbox president Sarah Bond too. For many outside the company, Bond seemed like Spencer's natural successor, a deputy of sorts, and Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella and Microsoft CFO Amy Hood clearly didn't disagree. They say instead of picking Bond for the role, Microsoft promoted Asha Sharma, a former Microsoft AI executive, to the top of Xbox. And this had a lot of people asking questions. They overlooked Sarah Bond. Fans of Xbox thought that basically she was the successor, and Phil Spencer was basically grooming her to become the next head of Microsoft Game, the next CEO of Xbox, all of that stuff. That's obviously not what Satya Nadella had in his plans when she's walking out the door. They go on here and say that the decision to overlook Bond might have surprised many Xbox fans, but far more than a dozen current and former Microsoft employees that I've been speaking to, it's felt inevitable for months. So what we are hearing here is that Sarah Bond leaving was something they knew. This wasn't, again, another one of those last minute decisions that they did make. It basically was inevitable, according to them. It goes on here saying Phil Spencer, Microsoft's long-term Xbox chief, made the decision to resign from Microsoft last year and after a tough few years for Xbox. So last year he made this decision. I mean, that's what I've been saying for a while. He's probably retiring. It wasn't just Satya Nadella walking into Phil Spencer's office on Friday in February and saying, Phil, you're done, you're out of here, you're fired. That obviously is not what happened. And to me, that was always clear as day, but people want to think that because it creates dramatics. It creates talking. It makes the story, I think, much bigger than it is. Sarah Bond, though, was always the question. The giant Activision Blizzard acquisition had dragged on for far longer than Microsoft had anticipated, and the need to grow the business saw Microsoft walk away from Xbox exclusive games in favor of multi-platform strategy. Microsoft has also been trying to reinvent the Xbox brand beyond the console with mixed results. Spencer's decision led to months of careful successor planning. Months. This wasn't Asha Sharma coming in here on that Friday and taking over. They've been planning this for a very, very long time. And you got to ask yourself, this was one of the biggest questions people had. And they kept saying this. Oh, it must have been Phil Spencer being fired, because why would they just let him go on a random Friday? And why would they just make this announcement out of nowhere? Apparently the announcement was actually supposed to be yesterday. And one of the things that Microsoft is very bad at, it does seem, especially the Xbox division, is keeping information inside of Xbox. It gets leaked out all the time. And I think that's another big reason why we do see so much spotlight on the negative stuff or just the big news stories about Xbox, because you get the leaks and then you have all of the speculation, and then later on you hear what the actual truth is, and that always ends up with it being bad, because the reality is when that stuff does happen, less and less people actually look at the truth. It starts off with the rumors and speculation, and that's generally what becomes the truth for most people. And then as the days and weeks go by and the truth really does come out and it's not ever as crazy as people think it is, less and less people are even paying attention to that. So by that time, they've already chosen that the that the stuff that was speculated on is the truth. But this is why we got this announcement on the Friday. It says Spencer's decision led to months of careful successor planning. It was announced to the world on Friday, but it was supposed to be today, which was yesterday, Monday. Microsoft was forced to announce early because it started to leak, and IGN was planning to run a story according to sources familiar with these situations. So media got a hold of it. They wanted to get ahead of the media putting out to do exactly what basically I was saying, was to stop probably speculation as to what was going on. But I don't know if that really did help, because people really did go into deep speculation right off the bat. So that kicked off a day of chaos where teams inside Xbox were hearing the news first through reporters and news outlets instead of via internal memos. And the team running Sarabon's social media accounts were so unprepared that a LinkedIn post inviting people to provide feedback about Xbox accessibility features went live just before her departure was announced. It sat there for hours until Bond's team eventually posted her own memo. And this is one thing we talked about in yesterday's video, which is the parasocial relationships that these CEOs build with the fans on the internet. I saw some comments where people were thinking that this is a good thing and sets Xbox apart and they actually like it. The reality is you're not even really talking to Sarah Bond. You're not talking to these CEOs. You're talking to people running their accounts and interns and all of that stuff that's going on. And it'll be the same with Asha Sharma. I could almost bet that most of the time, if you think you're talking to her, you're probably not. You're probably talking to somebody who's running her account. And I just overall think the more that they talk and the more that they say these things and they try to become one of the gamers, when really they're CEOs at the top trying to make business decisions that will put Xbox in the best position going forward from a business perspective, it actually at the end of the day hurts, I would say, the brand more so than anything, because they can't deliver on every little thing that they're saying on social media. They can't deliver on all of these promises, even though they're just talking, that people think that they make, and then it ends up blowing up in their face. And we've seen that happen multiple times on the Xbox side of things, and far less on the PlayStation and Nintendo side, because their CEOs are silent. They don't go on social media. They don't spend their time on that. They don't have people running accounts for them on social media.